Because he lives, I can face tomorrow. Because he lives, all fear is gone. Because I know he holds the future, and life is worth living just because he lives. When I went in the Marines, and they taught me to never give up, and God's never given up on me, so I walked far away from him, but he's there and brought me back to him many, many years ago, thank God. That was 1942. I went in November 9th, 1942. You know, I was 15 at the time, and I was about 6 feet and a couple hundred pounds then, and so there's no other service. You know, they're the esprit de corps of the Marines and the traditions and the history, and they've proven themselves over and over in the years. We have a strong motto, you know, can do, make do, but we will do, you know, that's all. I went to boot camp at San Diego, California. And we were in tents the entire time we were there. After I came out of boot camp, I wanted to be a raider, and a Marine Raider, which was the elite group at that time. I went to the Raider camp at Jack's Farm, but they changed it the day I went. They changed it to a tank camp. So I volunteered as a tanker. I became a driving instructor, went to Jack's Farm, and a driving instructor in the Marines at 15 and the tanks. But the tanks, my particular company went in, we had the first Sherman tanks, which were medium tanks that the Marine Corps used. And I was in C Company, 4th Tank Battalion, 4th Marine Division, which was attached to the 23rd Marine Regiment.
In the Central Pacific, the Marshall Islands constituted a block in the path of the U.S. drive westward. If that drive was to be successful, several strategically located islands in that group must be seized. At Kwajalein, the world's largest coral atoll, the main objectives were 3 small islands. Roy and Namur, linked by an artificial causeway, were to be seized by the 4th Marine Division.
We went direct from San Diego into combat at Roy and Namur in the Kwajalein Atoll. We wouldn't know it until we were aboard ship on the way, and then they'd tell us. And they would end with a prayer, you know. But we would not be, told at all the name of the island or where we were at until we got there. I was a tank commander in combat at 16 on Roy Namur. And our tanks went across the island, and they didn't think we could move that fast. And we got shelled by naval gunfire then because they thought we were enemy tanks. So because of that, we painted, the next battle we went into, Saipan, they painted yellow on the top of them in numbers like the police cars have. They just belabored the devil out of us, and with gunfire, because it was X marked the spot. So we quickly stopped that after that battle. We were infantry tanks, so we went in usually about the 2nd or 3rd wave. Yeah, we were always at the forefront. And we, because we were infantry tanks, why we were in the front, why we had to watch the Japanese would, at that time they had shape charges. They'd run up and slap that shape charge on the side of the tank. Well, because of that, then we put steel I-beams out and then put 2x12 boards over them. So then the shape charge would hit that board. Well, it would make it look terrible, but it wouldn't. And it'd rattle our cage inside the tank, but it wouldn't, it wouldn't blow a hole in the tank. And nothing more interesting than to look out your periscope and see Japanese eyes looking at you, So as a result, we would have a tank behind that would cover us with machine gun fire, which didn't affect the tanks. But it's incredibly hot and sweaty in the tanks, and there weren't any air conditioners or anything there. It was just a confined space of hell. That's as close to hell as I want to come. I've seen a tank commander that they disabled his tank when he was getting out. Well, we're always instructed not to climb out the top, because you're under fire, but there's an escape hatch down the bottom of the tank where you could crawl out from under it, and he got chopped in two with machine gun bullets. There's nothing pleasant about war. We did a lot of combat. I saw a lot of brave men, a lot of foolish men, a lot of courageous men, that went on to their maker. The 4th Marine Division, our final landing was at Iwo Jima. It was the 19th of February, 1945 to the 26th of March, 1945. They thought that we'd probably have about 3,000 casualties, and that'd be it. They had no idea at all that how it was interlaced with caves. And there were 25,851 U.S. casualties. 6,821 were killed in action. 27 Medals of Honor were earned by our heroes at that time. At Iwo Jima, the only time I cried was when we finished, and I could see all those crosses, all those graves, all those brave young souls gone, and we said goodbye to our friends. So we must never forget, that America is free only because of the heroes that have given their lives for our country. That's one reason I have an annual Iwo Jima ceremony at Leavenworth National Cemetery, where a group of us bought a monument back before they had any monuments for World War II. I went to North China with the 1st Marine Division. I was in C Company, 1st Tank Battalion, 1st Marine Division up there. And then as a tank platoon sergeant, I'd upgraded a little bit. My time overseas in combat in World War II was probably 3 to 3.5 years, yes. And we didn't have this 6 months that they have now. They come back in. We were over there till the war was over. It was in August of 1946, when I came back. They discharged us very rapidly at that time then, and I realized I only had 2 years of high school, and I needed to get more schooling, so very quickly learned that in the Marine Corps. So as a result, then I went back to accelerated high school veterans courses they had at junior college in Kansas City, Kansas, and then I graduated from there with an associate's degree, and then I went to KU and got a bachelor's degree. I've had a lot of death-threatening things happen. In 1981, I was at the Las Vegas Hilton, and I got trapped in an elevator with 3 other folks that didn't make it. I still continue to get surgeries from it. I've had over 400 now, but God has blessed me with years of life, and taught me you don't give up. He never gave up on me, so, and the Marines taught me that too. You just don't give up. I decided that it'd be very rewarding for me to give back a little to the firemen that saved my life, and at the same time make an income. So I got into the fire equipment business, and I've been very blessed with that. I've been very rewarded with the, because the firemen understand I've been fried in the fire, and I don't want them fried. So I feel that God's greatest gifts are eternal life, of course, and new life. And God has blessed me with 3 daughters who were grown by the time I got in the fire, and I have 7 grandchildren, and 13 great-grandchildren. Again, God's never given up on me. I've been blessed with an extra life, and I'm firmly convinced it's so I can share with people that what we have, all the magic and the wonders and the enchantment that is America, if they would just look at it and realize, oh, it isn't free. I'm very proud to be American. I'm very proud to be the Corps. I conceive no higher honor or no greater honor than to serve God, country, and the Corps. And I've been blessed to do all three of them and to represent those that aren't here.
Each new victory in the drive across the Pacific was marked by still another burial service and the dedication of another square of hallowed ground, thousands of miles from home. The men who survived felt a very real sense of loss, for a strong feeling of kinship springs up between men in battle for a common cause. The dead would not be forgotten by the men who had fought with them side by side.
Yeah, I'm a Marine, and I will be to the day I die. You know, the last hymn of the Marine Corps hymn is that, you know, if the Army and the Navy ever look on heaven's scene, they'll find the streets are guarded by United States Marines.
What I'm proud of is that I did serve my country, and I did it voluntarily all the way through. All during high school, I worked in a drugstore at Independence Avenue in Hardesty in Kansas City, Missouri. I stuck with it until I found a job at Chrysler Motors Parts in Fairfax in Kansas City area. Meantime, North American Aviation, which builds B-25s, was hiring people, so I went over and applied for a job and had a job in North American Aviation. And my wife was working, she worked in a photo studio. She managed a photo studio in downtown Kansas City. Marty and I were married on the 13th of December in 1941. I always considered number 13 my lucky number as opposed to those who think otherwise. One day a friend of mine from Chrysler Motors Parts called me, John called me, and said, "Hey Leonard, they are giving an exam for aviation cadet at the courthouse in Kansas City, Kansas. Let's go." Well, okay, so I jumped in the car and ran over there, and he and I went in and took the examination, not dreaming that I could pass it. When I left there, I had mixed emotions about whether I had passed or not. But I had, and he too had passed, and I was notified by letter that I had passed and to go to Fort Leavenworth for a physical. And actually I went on duty 25th of November in 1942. And I went down to the Union Station, Kansas City, Missouri, which was jam-packed with people. We made it down to San Antonio, Texas, and Lackman Air Force Base was considered pre-flight training. They determined which of us would be bombardiers, and who would be navigators, and who would be the pilots. And we designated as pilots were then sent to start our pilot training. I guess I have to say within 2 hours I could fly, and I just progressed from there. And then I knew who I was then. I could fly, and I loved it. I had been recommended as a fighter pilot several times, along the line. So I thought, well, I'm going to fighters, but I didn't. I went to B-24 aircraft in Liberal, Kansas. And, it was a tough airplane to learn to fly. The day came when we were finished with what they call RTU, for combat crew training. And a few days later, they loaded us up and headed us out to Wahoo. And so that's where we did some more flying, and because they had not yet taken Saipan. And that's what we were waiting for. And then the day came when they had Saipan in operation, and we were to go there. And they put us up a small island about called Pagan, and there was still a complement of Japanese there. And it was a combat mission, and we dropped bombs on them, but that was to keep them honest, what it amounted to. But the first mission, I was lucky to get that as the first mission. But then the second mission and the third and so on, these were combat missions, and we found out what it was really like to be shot at. We could only go as far as Chichijima, which is the furthest north, our target. So it was either Chichijima or Iwo, and mostly Iwo. But Iwo Jima was always dangerous, and it was very, very dangerous in the beginning because they had fighter planes, and we didn't have a fighter cover. There was no fighter that could go with us. So we were first always, when we approached the island, we were attacked first by fighter planes. And their mode of attack was always coming in from in front of you. They'd come out of the sun at 12 o'clock high, just like the title of a movie. And you could see their guns flashing as they're shooting at you. And, hear my guns going off, shooting back at them. I could see tracers, I could see all that stuff. Occasionally they would be carrying a bomb, and they would release that bomb. And I watched those bombs come tumbling down towards us and go by. One hit from those, you're gone. But the number of missions when we got there was 25. So we were flying, and when we flew the fifth mission, by the time we got back, they had already raised it to 30. So we flew 5 more missions, and they raised it to 35. And eventually they got to 40. That was the total length you'd have to fly. So I flew 40 combat missions. Then I flew out by myself, flew back to San Francisco. I got into San Francisco and started looking for transportation back, and I got a ride into Forbes Air Force Base. And I had my wife and my sister meet me there and then bring me to Kansas City. I knew what I was doing, and I volunteered, and I did what I volunteered for, and I was proud that I was in it and I could do those things. I'm not trying to tell you that I wasn't frightened in combat. I was just as frightened as any other pilot or any other person would be, but I wasn't terrified. I think that's the difference. So I'm home, and I already had the orders with me to proceed after 30 days to Miami Beach, Florida. They would check my records. They said, "Lieutenant, you got enough points, you can get out of the service." I said, "Whoa, wait, not so fast. What's the alternative?" "Well," he said, "if you want to stay in." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, you can stay in." That was my flying career, the start of it. They assigned duties, extra duties for me. I was a base supply officer. I was a chemical warfare officer. I was a weather briefing officer. and I was a pilot. And the day came for me to retire. So after 22 years of being in the Air Force and flying in the Air Force, and finally getting a flying job that I really loved, I decided it was time to call it a day and retire. I would retire as a lieutenant colonel, but that was it. And I decided to hang it up, so I put in my resignation, and the rest is history. I was out of the Air Force and looking for a job. After I retired, and I decided that I wanted another job of flying, and so I put out some feelers several different places. I got a call from TWA. They offered me an odd job. They wanted me to go to Saudi Arabia and teach the young Saudi pilots how to fly as commercial pilots. We actually enjoyed the life. But at the time, for me to be there was really predicated on the education of my kid. So I came back and put him in school here, and I reported into TWA. And I was an instructor in the training center, Kansas City, Missouri, downtown. So I had another career started, and as it turned out, I finished my career with TWA after 16 years of really nice work. We were fortunate enough to have a child back in 1952. He and his wife had a daughter, and she has two lovely young girls, and they also have a son. So my family has grown, but not greatly so, but quality-wise, first class. We were married a total of 67 years. I don't make any secret of it. I loved her, and I've told everybody that will listen to me what I thought of her. She was my woman. I suppose looking back, I would like for them to understand that although many of us were volunteers, we didn't really want to go to combat. That was not our future at all. It was something we had to do for our country. We were a united country, and we were simply a tool. We were a part of it. So everybody in the United States was a part of the war effort. And we were simply the ones that faced the enemy. The way I looked at it.